Vasari Pasaporte una noche estuvo invitado nada menos que en el castillo de Versalles. ¿Y quién nos acompañó en la mesa? ¿Quién nos dirigió? ¿Quién nos paseó por el mundo del diseño, por el mundo de la imaginación y por una muy buena historia? Un señor que se llama Pierre Cardin. ¿Quién es? Pierre Cardin. ¿Por qué? Porque esa noche comió con nosotros. Y hoy, en un homenaje, nos vamos a encontrar que el gran hacedor, el gran factotum de la moda de Francia, interminable a lo largo de su carrera, que no solo une las prendas, la revolución, la comunicación, sino también el objeto, la gastronomía, piloto de Maxim en una época dorada del Gran Resto, también estaban sus proyectos, también estaban sus objetos y muchas cosas que se podían comprar a precios accesibles, porque una de sus definiciones era democratizar la moda.
Well, unlike today, a lot of designers during that time actually were making clothes. They were all making patterns and draping and actually designing clothes with the fabric, with the model. When you look at a career like Pierre Cardin's in a museum, you really begin to notice those iconic moments and see that how they may have influenced other designers or can influence future designers. Cardin was very much aware of the fact that people were thinking about being modern. He was able to make clothes that were both new but also wearable. He's often noted as democratizing fashion. Things that we associate with the 1960s now, that they all came from Pierre Cardin's imagination. In his early teenage years, he studied as an apprentice under a tailor. When he came to Paris, he was the first person that Christian Dior hired when he was opening his own atelier. And then he decided to go out on his own. In the late 1950s, he was asked to teach a class on three-dimensional cutting in Japan. He also then saw manufacturing opportunities. So that dialogue, both in terms of aesthetics and in business, is what propelled Cardin to have a very long career. He was always thinking on a large scale. There's stories that he would fly in models in an airplane, and they did a show on the Great Wall. They did a show in the Gobi Desert. Pierre Cardin certainly was at his height of fame during the 1960s and 1970s. He was in the headlines. That for him is kind of maybe the golden moment. People started asking questions like, what will people wear on the moon? Well, Pierre Cardin decided to answer that question. So in the late 1960s, early 70s, a lot of people were really thinking about how to make a clothing for the future that was more utilitarian, that was something a bit more like a uniform. He was very much staying on top of what was happening in the space race, what was happening in Russia with the cosmonauts, what's happening in America with the astronauts. The space race was definitely a part of the motivation behind let's think about tomorrow. When Pierre Cardin is in the 1960s and 1970s and thinking about getting fashion out into the world, licensing is allowing him to expand his business beyond fashion. One of the first things he does is he starts to make couture furniture. And another term he used for couture furniture was utilitarian sculpture. And so it wasn't just a piece of furniture, but he really thought of it as a 360 experience. So through licensing, Pierre Cardin was able to investigate not only just the fashions you were wearing, but the places you were going to live, the entertainment that you were going to see. It was almost like a Pierre Cardin world in the future. This is the first Pierre Cardin retrospective in New York in 40 years and covers his entire career, which has been since 1950 to the present. I think that this exhibition is a little bit like a rediscovery of Pierre Cardin. Cardin has such a big design history, and he's designed so many things that people haven't seen. And I think it's an opportunity for people to come to the Brooklyn Museum and really reassess who Pierre Cardin is and get an influence on their fashion style. At 96, he still goes to the office every morning. He still draws. He's still creating, designing new work. We all want to be Pierre Cardin.